After an overnight bus trip from Sucre, I arrived in high, cold La Paz and made for the Villa Fatima bus terminal. The road passes through the bleak Altiplano. We were heading for Coroico, which lies more than 2,000 metres lower in the warm subtropical forest. Compared with La Paz, Coroico has a very agreeable climate, pleasantly warm, never too hot, never too cold. It's quite windy there. These Adelpha butterflies are right on the edge of town. And so were these grasshoppers. The yellow markings are a form of warning coloration, which indicates to any potential enemy that this particular grasshopper tastes extremely unpleasant and it would be very unwise to try and eat it. This butterfly belongs to a family more typical of Africa than South America. This small butterfly is a perfect example of a false head mimic. The real head is on the right, the false head is on the left. Note how the wings are constantly moved up and down, so the false antennae on the right are moved all the time in a realistic way. The false head is designed to attract the thrusting beak of an attacking bird, leaving the butterfly to fly off safely. The flowers in my hotel garden attracted a variety of butterflies. These are passion flower butterflies. This is the malachite, one of only a small number of green butterflies found in the world. This day-flying moth mimics a kind of wasp. What looks like a sting at the back is just a harmless projection of the body. Many of the South American rainforest butterflies have either transparent or partly transparent wings. While on the search for insects in the forest around my hotel, I spotted what looked at first glance like a dead leaf. In fact, as you can see, it's a caterpillar. It realised I was there and decided to try and move. Notice how it's trying to mimic a dead leaf swaying in the wind. Males of several species of semi-transparent butterflies had congregated on some plants that I'd crushed underfoot. These plants were releasing chemicals in their sap that can be utilised by these males for their own defence and in sexual behaviour. Also attracted, for the same reason, were two species of brightly coloured, chemically protected, day-flying moths. Back in Coroico, I had a last look round before catching the bus back to La Paz. This is a typical traditional shop. Suddenly the weather changed very rapidly. Clouds swirled in from the other side of the valley. The view was obliterated within a few seconds. And a few minutes later, that was the view from the same place. Before dropping down into La Paz, the road cuts up through the La Cumbre Pass at 4,725 metres, around about 15,200 feet. But it was a bit of a shock to see freshly fallen snow. La Paz never really gets warm, which is not surprising. It lies at an altitude of 3,636 metres, about 11,800 feet. I checked into the very popular Wild Rover backpacker hostel. A short walk from my hotel lies the Plaza Pedro de Murillo. This government building is pockmarked with bullet holes from a shootout between police and the military a few years ago. Pigeons are as popular here as they are in parks all over the world. Shoeshine boys are present here as they were in Sucre, although here it's men rather than boys. Mass transit systems in many cities usually involve an underground metro or a tram system, but here in La Paz they use a cable car. We're now going to take a trip on it, up to El Alto and back again, accompanied by one of my songs, Great Big Sad City.
Sirens cruise the streaming street. big sad city, in the alleyways and subways, low-life cheats and steals and deals. Great big sad city, where survival of the fittest means you have the hardest wheels. You must feel pity for the men who squat inside a cardboard box that they call home. They don't look pretty, and their comfort's in a bottle, and they drink their meals alone. Sad city, where the junkies stab themselves with dirty needles, couldn't care. Great big sad city, thugs will beat you to a pulp if you so much as dare to stare. They feel no pity as they put the boots in, just because they feel that way tonight. They couldn't care less if you bleed to death. They have no sense of what is right.
After my trip in the cable car, I went straight up to the airport at Alto, heading for Bogota in Colombia on the next part of my trip. The airline I was looking for initially was Amazonas, taking me down to Santa Cruz, still in Bolivia. From there I would take Copa to Panama City and then back to Bogota, the cheapest routing I could find. I was amazed that an obviously very poor woman was being allowed to sell candy bars to people in the check-in queues. It says much for the generosity of the airline staff that they allowed her to do this. It was interesting to see how many people actually did buy something from her just to help her out. After a 2-hour wait in Santa Cruz, I joined the long check-in queue for the flight to Panama City. Once in Panama, all I had to do was find my gate. I already had a boarding pass. loading the luggage, hopefully including my backpack. And so to Bogota for a 2-month stay in Colombia.